Well, hello, seniors. This is Director of Guidance Ryan Van Kampen. I'm here today to help you get started with the college admissions process for this school year. We know that these videos won't be able to replace everything that you would have been able to experience had you been live and in person with us this year, but hopefully this gets you started and points you in the right direction so that when you have the opportunity to connect with your counselor virtually later this fall, you'll have a lot of the entry-level questions answered and you can dive into things that are specific to you. So today in this video, we're going to be looking at the school profile, how to access SchooLinks, looking at a little bit of vocabulary and college admissions timelines, and also looking at the roles and responsibilities that you, your parents, and other key people have in the college admissions process. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's the school profile, some basic information on Waubonsie Valley and things that might be helpful for you as you are starting to fill out your college applications. First thing that a lot of colleges will ask you for when they're determining where your application goes is looking at what is the size of your class. So you can report out that the class of 2021 is sitting at 616 students. Not only is this information helpful for your college applications, but it also should give you a peace of mind that you're not in this alone. There are 616 students right now, right here at Waubonsie Valley, going through the same college application process as you, and there are thousands of students across the country who are also going through college applications through a remote setting. So know that you're not in this alone. There are other people right alongside you. Other things that colleges might ask for or that might help you determining where you fall in comparison to others is looking at how the class of 2020 wound up and what their final plans were. So we found out that for the class of 2020, the top GPA was a 4.76. The top 5% of students had a 4.38 GPA or higher. The top 10% of students had a 4.2 GPA or higher. The top quarter of last year's class had at least a 3.85, and that 50th percentile had a 3.28 GPA or higher. We found out that 69% of last year's class decided that they were going on to a four-year university. 26% of our students said that they were going to go to a two-year college. 3% enlisted in a military service, and 2% had other plans, whether that meant taking a gap year or going straight into the workforce. Additional information on our school profile can be found on the WVHS homepage or by going to the guidance department's website. Next, we'll look at where were the top colleges that Warriors went for the class of 2020. As usual, our top sending school was College of DuPage. This was made even more apparent this year as many colleges decided to go to a completely remote environment. And we found that students were looking to take advantage of the affordable and just really high quality education that College of DuPage had right here in our own backyards. We found out that if colleges were going online anyways, it was more economical to take those online classes through a great community college partner in College of DuPage. Next up, we had University of Illinois, Illinois State University, Indiana University, University of Iowa, University of Illinois at Chicago, Iowa State University, Purdue University, Aurora University, and Northern Illinois University. You can see that last year, a lot of our Warriors did decide to stay closer to home. And in uncertain times that we're currently in with the pandemic, this isn't a bad idea. But of course, we still have other Warriors who are going to colleges across the country, from Arizona to Florida to New York, California. We also had several students go international last year. So there are plenty of opportunities available to you, Warriors. Another big change for this year's seniors is instead of using the Naviance platform, we've now transitioned over to SchooLinks. While you might have had access to SchooLinks last year, if you haven't used it, that's okay. There's plenty of ways for you to get into SchooLinks. The link for SchooLinks is available from the counseling department website, the single sign-on portal, and the student splash page. The great thing about SchooLinks is it directly integrates with your single sign-on portal. So if you've already logged in to your school Google account, you have access to SchooLinks. What can you do on SchooLinks? Well, here are some things to start with. You can research colleges. You can find out more about what majors and minors they have there. You can do virtual college visits directly through SchooLinks. You can also see what the estimated cost of attending that college is. When you're on SchooLinks, we also ask you to start filling out your student profile in the About Me section. Not only does this let you help build a resume, but it also shares information with your counselors and teachers when you go to ask for letters of rec. SchooLinks will also allow you to request transcripts and track your applications once you've started them. So if you haven't already gotten on SchooLinks, we encourage you to start exploring that platform today. And in the near future, you'll have information on how you can do those extra steps, such as request transcripts and track your applications. So now let's talk about the nuts and bolts of college admission. We're going to talk about some of the vocabulary associated with admissions, and also we're going to look at some of the key dates that it's so vital for you to pay attention to over the next couple months. So let's look at some of that college admissions vocabulary, because these are some terms that maybe you've heard in passing, but really don't understand what they mean. So first we have regular admissions. And a regular admission, this is where you're applying by a midwinter deadline, usually sometime in January, and then you end up hearing back from the colleges a few weeks later, or maybe as late as mid-April. But regular admissions is the most standard type of college admissions that most offices are using. Next, you also have something called rolling admissions. And this is actually most common for a lot of smaller schools or private schools or liberal arts. And here's where the students submit their applications and the schools respond to you within 4 to 6 weeks of receiving that application. There's no official deadline, but usually the sooner you apply, the better chance you have of being accepted at a school with rolling admissions. They'll continue to review those applications and admit students until their freshman class is full. The next two terms can be seen as very similar, but they have different outcomes. The first is early action. And here's where students submit their college applications in the early fall, typically a November 1st or maybe November 15th deadline. And then you hear from those schools in early January or even sooner. The key thing with early action is these are non-binding agreements, meaning you can apply to many schools for early action and you're not required to go there if you get in. Contrast that against early decision. And here's still where you're following that same timeline of applying in early fall and then those schools notifying you in December or January. The big difference is that if you apply early decision, you're entering into a binding agreement with that college where if you get accepted, you are saying, I will attend here. And really that is something that usually requires you to agree to it, your parents agree to it, and your school counselor to agree to it. They take that binding agreement very seriously, and that's why they have multiple people sign off on it. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those early dates. Early action, you can apply to many schools and you're not bound to go there. Versus early decision, you can usually only apply to one school for early decision. And if you get accepted there, that is a binding arrangement that you've made with the school. So we encourage our students, for peace of mind, look at that early action or that early admissions. Kind of get these done and out of the way so you have more time to look at financial aid options and to weigh your options of which college that you've been accepted to is really the best fit for you. Now, looking at that admissions timeline, we kind of mentioned this in the vocabulary, but if we look at our early action or priority filing, this is typically happening in early fall. So you're looking at a November 1st deadline, and then you would hear your acceptance from that college usually by January 1st. Regular admissions, you might have a early or mid-January deadline, and you might hear back in April. And regardless of how you've applied, most colleges are going to be looking at a May 1st date where they're asking you to make a commitment or put down your housing deposit to secure your spot in the freshman class. When we look at deadlines internally here are some key dates that you have up there. So, for example, if you have an early application deadline of October 15th, you'll really want to make sure that you get your transcript request and your letter of recommendation request into the staff here at Waubonsee Valley by September 30th. Sometimes, especially in a remote environment, there are extra steps that we have to do to review your transcript or to complete that letter of rec. So on a general rule of thumb, you want to give your teachers and your counselors at least 2 weeks notice when you need something. So as you go down the list, you can see for those November 1st deadlines, you'll want to make sure that you've made your request by October 16th. If you're looking at November 15th, get that in by October 30th. If you have December 1st deadlines, make sure that you get that in by November 10th. That seems really early, but when you consider that we have parent-teacher conferences and Thanksgiving break in there, you need to give your teachers and counselors enough time to get those letters done. If you have a January 1st deadline, make sure that you get that submitted to your counselor early December, so we have that well ahead of winter break. Now let's look at the roles and responsibilities that each member of your college application team will play over the next couple months. The first person, and probably most important, is you, the student. Really, if you think about it, your college applications are leading you towards a future path. And as such, you need to be the one who should be driving the application process. That means you're initiating contact with your counselors and your teachers, whether that's asking for their advice or asking for their letter of rec. You should be the ones that are completing the college applications. Make sure that your voice comes through with that. Colleges can tell when a student has written their application versus when a parent has helped them fill that out. You should be writing your essays and your personal statements, once again making sure that your voice comes out through that essay and that it's personal to you. You'll be completing those letter of rec forms and updating your profile in SchooLinks so that your counselors and teachers have accurate information about you and are highlighting your key strengths when they're filling out student profiles, recommendation letters, and anything else that colleges are asking from the high school staff. You should also look at really doing your research to find a school that's going to be the best fit for you. If you're wondering what makes a good fit for you, check out one of our other videos that we have posted on the Waubonsee Valley Counseling Department website about what makes a great college. But in doing your research, you should really look at making sure you're doing some of these virtual visits to college campuses, especially now that you can't get on them because many colleges are closed due to COVID-19. Any virtual visits you can do is great. Then make sure you can look up admissions requirements. Have you taken the right classes? Are you missing anything? Do you have enough of a world language? Make sure you know what the school is looking for before you apply. Search for scholarships, whether you're jumping on the SchooLinks website or other scholarship boards. Look for ways to help you pay for college. And really, as we've already talked about, pay attention to those deadlines. College admissions deadlines are very firm, and if you miss a deadline for early action, you might not be able to apply early action. You'll get put into the general admission deadlines. So pay attention to deadlines. Parents. Our big advice for you is allow your student to take the lead in this process. They're making decisions that will help guide them for their next 4 years and beyond. Let them be in charge of it, but make sure you're there to support them. You can hold your students accountable for meeting deadlines, but you want your students to be the ones doing that work and making decisions. Parents, we also encourage you to have an open conversation about college fit. You know your student almost as well, if not better than they do. You might see things from a different perspective, and you can help them decide whether maybe a big school or a small school is better. help them decide what a good academic fit is. We also encourage parents to be upfront about college finances. We know that every family's situation is different, especially in the past couple months, as COVID-19 may have impacted your family differently. So have those conversations with your students about how much your family is able to contribute to their college education. Do you have a savings account set aside? Have you filled out the FAFSA together? Are there any other sources of income that can be used for colleges? Let a student know so that they can factor that into their decisions. And parents, just like the students, we need you to be aware of approaching deadlines and help hold your student accountable to meeting those deadlines. Here at school, kind of your go-to advocate will be your school counselor. The school counselors will be helping you complete the counselor portion of applications. Things like making sure your official transcript is sent. Having a letter of rec from the counselor is required by almost every school, certainly every school on the Common App. And then counselors will also be completing counselor rating forms and those counselor forms within the Common Application. We'll also be looking at facilitating virtual events for the students where we'll be having Q&A sessions, where we'll be bringing in admissions representatives from colleges and universities and setting up Zooms so you can have conversations with them. We're also here to provide general scholarship and financial aid information. As much as we want to help you there and work to the best of our abilities, please remember that school counselors are not financial planners. That's not our strength. That's not our focal point. But we do have a good working knowledge. And we will be bringing in some guest presenters to help you with that financial piece. And always know that your counselor will be available to work with you via the platform that works best for you, whether that means setting up a Zoom call, a phone call, working with you through email, or hopefully, if things work out for us, even being able to bring small groups of students into the school to work on these college applications later this fall. The Waubonsee Valley teachers are also here to support you through this process, and that would include writing letters of rec upon your request. Make sure that you give your teachers adequate time to write a good, solid letter of rec. They want to help you out, but they're also adjusting to remote learning, and things may take them a little longer in this environment. So make sure you're giving them that minimum of 2 weeks, if not longer. Your teachers will also be here to do some informal mentoring with you and sharing personal experiences, helping you decide what a good college is for you, or maybe even sharing about their college experience so you can learn more about colleges through that informal method. And teachers will also be able to utilize some of that time before school or after school for individual supports with personal statements or letters of rec. And then the college admissions staff. Their role in this process is to facilitate admissions visits and virtual events. They review all of your application materials once they've been submitted, and then they actually make and communicate that final admissions decision. So keep in mind that as you're talking to college admission staff, that these are the people that are going to be reading your applications and making a final decision on whether to admit you to the university or not. So you want to make sure that you are being polite and respectful to them and having a positive rapport, even if that's just through email or through leaving messages on their voicemail. So Warriors, I hope that helps you get started with the application process. We'll be posting more videos on specific topics and then also providing you with live Zoom Q&A sessions throughout the month of September. So we look forward to supporting you through this process in any way that we can. Go Warriors!